All right, my panel is back for more discussion about the crowded field of potential Democratic candidates for the 2020 election. All right, Beth, so we were just talking here at the table about a bunch of stuff. Let's talk really quickly about what Florida and Georgia, the results there did to the Democratic electorate. You've been out there on the road. What did it do to the psyche of Democrats in terms of who to pick?
Well, so the three big, the candidates people are very excited about in 2018, the statewide candidates were Stacey Abrams in Georgia, Andrew Gillum in Florida, and Beto in Texas. Now, and all three of them lost. And one could say, well, why is it that people are talking about Beto as the presidential hopeful in 2020 and not Gillum and Abrams? Is there something underlying there, the fact that there was a black woman, a black man, didn't pull it out, oh, then they can't possibly move on in a national way, right, where a Beto can. I disagree with that. They were both excellent candidates, but there's some viability issues there just by virtue of the fact that they are not as well known as a Beto. Beto, even though he's running in Texas, one state, he was running for the Senate, so that becomes more of a national race. He was running against Ted Cruz. That enabled him to be very well known throughout the country among Democratic activists and to raise the kind of money that you need to be a viable candidate in all those four early states that you mentioned, but also now in California, which has moved up its primary to March 3rd. They're going to have early voting a month ahead of that. So suddenly you need a candidate who can play in the biggest state in the country. That, again, requires somebody who's got that kind of national fundraising, national exposure. And of those three, Gillum, Abrams, and Beto O'Rourke, Beto O'Rourke's the one who has
and
that.
Jason, here again, this is why I kind of disagree with you on the idea of viability. If you do not win, right, at least one or two of those first four, South Carolina, New Hampshire, Iowa, and Nevada, you will not have the fundraising momentum to be able to compete literally a month later in California. California has moved up. So don't we have to start talking about that idea of being able to be a monster fundraiser and to be able to win early? You can't wait on Amy Klobuchar to win in the Midwest and think that she's going to be viable, for instance.
Well, so this is actually one of the problems with moving California up, because I do think it skews the race and makes it top-heavy, and you don't have candidates who have the chance to grow. Look, my thought is this, and California being really key here, right? That supposedly ends up helping out someone like Kamala Harris. I talked to a lot of people on the ground in Florida, in Virginia, in Georgia. What's the most important constituency for Democrats in 2020? Black women. And I've heard plenty of black women say, if there's not a black woman on this ticket, I'm not voting, I'm not excited, I'm not enthusiastic. What happens if Kamala Harris stumbles? Where else is the Democratic Party going to search for an African-American woman to at least consider, if not as a contender, then at least as a VP pick? That's where people like Ayanna Pressley or even Stacey Abrams have to be taken into consideration. If the Democratic Party wants to run seriously in 2020, they can't relegate black women to second class. They can't relegate black women to a consolation prize.
And by the way, E.J. Dionne, they can't run two white guys. I mean, the idea that you have Joe Biden talking to Beto O'Rourke and saying maybe they could be a ticket, I personally find it hard to understand how you get the requisite turnout among voters of color if it's a two white male ticket. I mean, women are going to be outraged if there's not a woman on the ticket, and voters of color are going to say, well, then why are we participating?
Well, if you look at the 2018 elections, it's remarkable how many women got elected to the House of Representatives as Democrats. And so I agree. I think most Democrats, if a white candidate is the #1 on this ticket, I think they will, a white male, they will be looking for a woman or an African-American or both. When you hear a lot of people kick around tickets, that's why Kamala Harris's name gets mentioned a great deal. But I want to go back to something important that Beth said, I think, about Beto, which is because he created this national fundraising base, he could go out, as somebody I know has suggested to him, and say, look, I'll get in if I can raise $100 million in 100 days. He can raise a lot of money very fast because of the existing fundraising base he has. And we can argue correctly that politics depends too much on money, but guess what? Politics does depend on money, and he can raise it in a grassroots way. That may be his biggest advantage in this race.
Absolutely. Before we go, we're out of time, but Beth Fouhy, I want to put up this. We have a cute little interactive here. Can you guys quickly show me Biden favorability and Bernie Sanders favorability, because they were the top two. So if you go to Joe Biden here, the black means that he's very favorable. The blue means it's mostly favorable. Let's show Bernie Sanders here, because these are the two who got the top two. what was the viability index on the two of them and the thoughts on them when you were in Iowa?
People definitely are excited about Biden, and they want to know what he's going to do. He's sort of going to keep that field in some degree frozen in place until he announces a decision.
Yep.
But because he's so well known, he's got a little bit of time to get in if he wants to.
Yep.
Bernie, on the other hand, no. People do not have the loyalty to him in Iowa that they had in 2016. That's my impression. Those folks were very excited about him in 2016. They want to look around at other candidates.
They're shopping. They're looking for something new.
They're definitely shopping.
Democrats like newness. All right. Well, Beth Fouhy, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Great to have you on the show. Jason and EJ will be back in our next hour. More AM Drive after the break.